Now, the Bullet Cast would like to present to you the 3rd Annual Bullet Cast Awards.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know the name, you know the voice, you know exactly why I'm here. Just in case if you don't, I'm a 23-year-old piece of gold, the messiah of the microphone, and the greatest sports recreational podcast from the world today, the Podfather. Why are we here? It's simple. 2019 is coming to an end. Next week, new year, new month, new decade. But we got to give awards out. Who was the best wrestler of the year? Best female wrestler of the year? Who was the wrestler of the decade? We're going to get to all that today, but you know I never do it alone. He's on the line. My tag team partner, the Jimmy to my J, the Tully to my Arn, the Stevie Ray to my Booker T. He is the Le Champion of this show, the Canadian Destroyer BT Brandon Tanguma. How you doing today, buddy?
You know, Phillip, I'm doing just fine. Had a fantastic Christmas, and hopefully everybody out there had a good Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, hopefully you had a good day off. And if you don't have the day off, as we say here, make your money boo-boo.
Absolutely, got to make your money, boo-boo. I made my money and got that time and a half. But we're not alone. We have a third man. I know I always refer to myself as Hall, and Branon can be Nash, but he's not Hogan. Maybe he's Six-Pac. I don't know. Jay from the Rudos Podcast has joined us. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, Phillip. Thank you for having me on to represent Rudo Nation. I'm doing well. I had a good Christmas. I got some time off, relaxing before popping open a little bit of the bubbly to celebrate the new year, man. 2019 was a great year in wrestling. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, we did do this yesterday, but the whole thing didn't record, and yeah. But, you know, second time's a charm. I feel like there's more energy this time around, you know. Yesterday, I was just kind of going through the motions. I was just kind of mailing it in. I was being a vanilla midget, even though I'm a brown midget. Can I say that on this show? I think we can. We can say whatever we want. We can throw out the profanity.
It's your podcast, Phillip. You can say whatever you want.
It is my show. I feel like Arsenio Hall or something, you know. But we're gonna hit that fan mail.
Oh!
Oh! There we go. Are we barking, big dog? I don't have that sound drop anymore.
I don't know. That's what Arsenio Hall show would do.
Yes. We're going to hit the fan mail, but I want to do something that I didn't do yesterday. Acknowledge those that we lost in 2019 from the wrestling world. Mean Gene Okerlund, Ashley Massaro, King Kong Bundy, Pedro Morales, and the 8-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. He was a tough SOB, Harley Race. You guys are forever missed, and we took some big losses in 2019. You guys have anything to say about that?
I just want to say, rest in peace, que en paz descanse.
All right, Branon?
No, we pretty much covered all of them individually on the podcast when it happened. Hopefully, everybody and their families are doing well during this tough time because, I lost my grandmother this year, so I know how it is. First holiday season, sometimes it can be a little rough.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Your family has my condolences.
Oh, obrigado, Umuruinho.
Oh, there we go. All right, fan mail, jack of all trades. Watching wrestling with my son reminds me of being a kid and watching with my dad, loving Hogan, Macho Man, and Andre. Did you guys experience this with your fathers? Jason, why don't you go first?
Growing up, my dad was not the wrestling fan in the family. It was my grandfather. And he and I would watch wrestling together. He would take me to all the wrestling events, man. He took me here when I was a kid to the Henry J. Kaiser Center right there on the right next to Lake Merritt. Man, I got to see Sting versus Rick Rude in a cage match. They had all kinds of guys on that card, man. You go back and look at it. That was real fun. Yeah, man, growing up, it was my grandfather who really instilled me with that love of wrestling that I still have to today.
All right, Branon, what about you, man?
Well, I don't have any wrestling memories with my father because he was not a wrestling fan, but kind of the reason I watched wrestling is because of him, because my mother and father got a divorce and they never really let me watch wrestling, but then once my father moved out, my mother let me watch it, and then ever since then, I'm here. I was hooked.
There you go. Dad wasn't in my life growing up. Didn't really have a male role model or whatever. But I watched wrestling with my mom a lot, man. She was a big Cena guy. Loved Edge. Loves Kofi. Goes goo goo gaga over the big dog Roman. But yeah, man. Just a lot of times I'm really just watching wrestling by myself now. Just preparing for this show so I can give the recaps of everything that's going on in the world of professional wrestling to the people. So yeah, I mean, if I have a parent to watch wrestling with, it was my mother. All right, we have Dan coming up. What's your highlight of 2019? Go, wrestling highlight of 2019. Brandon, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think my wrestling highlight, we're going to talk about it a lot on this show, is probably the trip in its entirety to Double or Nothing, Starcast, Double or Nothing, some shenanigans that happened during the trip to Vegas. So just that entire trip, I would have to say, was my highlight of 2019.
Jay, what about you?
My wrestling highlight of 2019, man, I was very fortunate. I was able to go to Tokyo. I got to see Stardom at the famous Korakuen Hall. And later that day, I got to go to Ryogoku Sumo Hall and see New Japan's King of Pro Wrestling live in Tokyo, man. It was an experience I will never forget for my entire life. Love Tokyo, love Japan, great food, great wrestling, great people. I recommend everybody go visit if you get the chance.
Yeah, man, I'd love to go over to Japan. I really do enjoy the culture, and I'd like to experience one of the shows there because Japanese wrestling fans are a lot different from us American fans. They're quiet when a guy does one dive, and compared to over here, a guy does one dive at the start of the match. This is awesome. Like it's kind of repug, as my boy Peter Rosenberg would say. But my wrestling highlight, I did go to Double or Nothing. I was there with Branon. We weren't together, but we were there. But like I said yesterday, it has to be this.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Got to hang out with Jericho, man. I mean, he's the GOAT. What he's done in 2019 at 48, 49 years old, it's unprecedented, But shout out to Baby Huey and Bimbo Jimbo for making that happen to your boy. First concert I ever went to was a Jericho concert for Fozzy. And, I got to hang back and just for like an hour and a half chill with Chris Jericho. It's like being in on a live Jericho podcast. It's the best way you can describe it. Seriously, Jimbo, Huey, thank you again so much. And yeah, man, chilling with Jericho, that's bucket list for life. You know what I mean?
Did you crack open a little bit of the bubbly with him?
Jericho, I'm breaking kayfabe here, guys. He's a Grey Goose guy. There was no bubbly. There were like 3 bottles of Grey Goose, a half-eaten rotisserie chicken, and then like a cooler full of beer. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
I mean, if you listen to Jericho's podcast, he has said multiple times that he is a fan of the Grey Goose.
No, no vodka sodas, just straight Grey Goose, man.
The goose is loose.
The goose is loose. I think we had a couple other fan mails. Let me go to the email thread here. Hootie Hoo 420.
Hootie Hoo.
Mates, as 2019 comes to an end, what was the wrestling highlight of the year for you? I think we already did that with Dan. Alright, Hootie Hoo 420. Forgot to ask, what's the moment of the decade, promo of the decade? We talked about this yesterday. Promo of the decade, CM Punk, the pipe bomb. I remember where I was, sitting on a couch in Pensacola, Florida, June 27th, 2011. CM Punk just cutting pipe bombs, mentioning Ring of Honor, Colt Cabana, saying the company would be better once Vince was dead, called Triple H a doofus, called Stephanie an idiot. It was great stuff. You have to love it.
That's one of the classic promos of all time. I think that's my promo of the decade too. I'm thinking back and racking my brain. I have a hard time thinking with anything that comes up with the historical impact of that, and really, I mean, it goes down as one of the greatest promos of all time. You got to be up there with some of the great ones. It's like Dusty Rhodes' Hard Times, man. It's up there with them.
Yeah, this year was a great year for wrestling in-ring wise. Promos, they were great promos, but nothing really stands out to me like that CM Punk pipe bomb promo. Just, it was breaking kayfabe, even though everything was pretty much agreed upon what he was going to say. Being that I wasn't into wrestling like I am now, back then I didn't really know what he was saying, but it did pique my interest. And if CM Punk didn't cut that promo and get all hot and get super hot during the summer of Punk, I don't know if I would still be a wrestling fan, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I mean, that was a time where I was favoring TNA. I know what I just said. Favoring that over WWE. I mean, Robert Roode, sorry. He had just started that reign, the longest reign in TNA history, I might add. His feuds with James Storm and Angle and Styles and Sting, all that was going on. And then Punk sat down on that stage in Vegas and just kind of let it loose. Let the goose loose, as Jay might say. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the other question, the other part of the question. What's the moment of the decade? We all know it's the streak. It's over. It, yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing you could think of. I mean, there have been other moments, but what's bigger than what's bigger than Taker's streak ending at WrestleMania 30 in 2014? Branon, tell us.
Well, I was thinking about it, and yes, I think the Undertaker streak, probably looking back, is going to be like the defining, WTF moment of the decade that everyone's going to look back on. But I think another one that we're kind of overlooking is maybe The Rock returns to WWE. He does the hosting gig at WrestleMania, and then he comes back to wrestle John Cena. And yes, maybe having the twice in a lifetime match might have devalued it a little bit, but at the moment when The Rock came back, when he was the biggest movie star in the world, I think that is also a contender for moment of the decade as well.
Hey, I'm just gonna say real quick. I think the second match, WrestleMania 29, for the WWE title, it was a lot better than 28. My personal opinion. But Jay, what do you think?
I'm going to go a little further back. I'm going to go April 7th, 2013, Tokyo, Japan, Ryogoku Sumo Hall. It is the formation of the Bullet Club. Prince Devitt turns on his partner, Ryusuke Taguchi, to form the Bullet Club, which had ripples throughout the decade that we're still feeling today. You don't have the Bullet Club. You don't have AJ Styles' run as the Bullet Club leader in New Japan. You don't have Kenny Omega's run as the head of the Bullet Club. You don't have the Elite. You don't have AEW without the Bullet Club. That is my moment of the decade.
No, I mean, you're right. We don't have AEW without Ferg's formation of the Bullet Club. That 6 years prior to what AEW became this year. So you're absolutely right for that one. That's a cool moment too. The Too Sweet hand gesture became cool again. Stuff like that. So it's what's up.
Selling a lot of merch too, man. They made a lot of merch off the Bullet Club.
They did. They made a lot of money.
And if people, if that didn't happen, people might not have seen, oh, I can make all this money away from WWE. Maybe Cody wouldn't have left WWE. And as you said, AEW might have not have been a thing. All In wouldn't have been a thing. And it's just so many different aspects of the business would change if there was no Bullet Club or whatever.
You could do a whole what if episode on it.
We could. Maybe we'll do that for 2020. Guys, what's your favorite era of the Bullet Club? I'll go first. I'm not going to lie. The Cody... I caught the tail end of the AJ era, but the Cody Rhodes era of the Bullet Club, it was fun, I'm not going to lie. There were some moments where I laughed at things Kenny Omega said. I loved the Bucks. Hangman Page started to get a little rise. They had Marty. The core elite of the Bullet Club. Those were fun times. Branon, what's your favorite moment of the Bullet Club or favorite era?
My era, we've said this multiple times, my era would be the AJ Styles era. This is when I started watching New Japan for the first time. They had the Global Force partnership to where they brought Wrestle Kingdom on American pay-per-view. I watched it. I knew who AJ Styles was, so he was kind of the reason. I was like, oh, I know AJ. I'll tune in and see what he's doing outside of TNA. And then, the Young Bucks and, Kenny and all the other guys kind of came along. And then I found out who Prince Devitt was, who Finn Balor was, and I even loved Finn Balor when he was in WWE. I didn't even know that he was in the Bullet Club for, a long period of time. So AJ, I think because he was one of the reasons why I started watching New Japan, that's my favorite era of the Bullet Club.
Jay, what about you?
I gotta say, my favorite is also the AJ era. You got Gallows and Anderson. You had Tama Tonga. You had Bad Luck Fale. And really just kind of what really brought the time the Bullet Club was brought to the world's attention. Yeah, Kenny Omega was sort of their junior guy still at that point, but Kenny was still a part of the Bullet Club, and their hijinks, having the Young Bucks come in, and and their rivalry with Red Shoes during that era was hilarious. I loved it. It's got to be my favorite.
Yeah, man, I love Bullet Club. I think one day we'll have to have you back on and we can do like our top 10 factions of all time. Because Bullet Club, I mean, look, Bullet Cast, Bullet Club, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. Like, the name of the name that the show was going to be, it was going to be terrible. I don't think I've ever told that story. Brandon, have I told this story?
I don't think you have, Phillip. I don't know what the alternative name for this podcast would be.
God, it says this. Oh, yeah. So, I'm a big Shawn Michaels guy. I think he's the greatest performer in the history of the business. Look, Sweet Chin music, this was going to be called Sweet Pod Kick music. Let that sink in. That's absolutely terrible. Thank God I was watching some AJ Styles match from when he was in Bullet Club. I'm like, Bullet Club, Bullet Cast, and boom. There we go. Sometimes it just comes to you like that, you know?
The best inspiration is the most random inspiration.
Absolutely. Oh, we got a last minute one from Hootie Hoo 420 earlier today since there was
Hootie Hoo.
There we go. Since there was a delay in the show. Since there's a delay, guys, give us your best wrestling impersonations. Brandon, you have to do one. It's the end of the year. Oh, it's calling you out, man. I mean, Jay, do you?
What?
Do you? Oh, there you go. Was that it? Stone Cold?
There you go. That's all you're getting for me.
Jay, do you have one?
Let me tell you about my wrestling impersonation. Yeah, I wanna come in here and show you how I do the Macho Man. Yeah, the Macho Man is in the house. Yeah.
There you go, little Macho Man, little Randy Savage for us. I'd go into a Randy, but that hurts. I don't know. Maybe I'll break into Dusty later on in the show. We'll find out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to start giving out awards. Breakout Star of the Year, the Kurt Angle Award. Why? Because Kurt Angle's probably the best breakout star in wrestling history. From the Olympics in 1996 to debuting in WWF in 98, 99, and to just going on a 20-year-long career. So here we go. Our nominees are Orange Cassidy, Jacob Fatu, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, Darby Allin, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and my boy and good friend, Carl Fredericks. Ladies and gentlemen, our breakout star of 2019 is The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Now, I know people are going to say, well, why is he a breakout star? He's already been established. Look, he went away, he came back, and he broke out into something new, something different. There's the Mr. Rogers, Pee Wee Herman element of Bray with the Firefly Funhouse, but then he goes into this deep, dark, sadistic character with The Fiend and surviving 19 curb stomps and having a sledgehammer smashed on his head and winning championships in Saudi Arabia and all this other stuff. Jay, what are your thoughts on Wyatt winning Breakout Star of the Year?
You know, I gotta say I respectfully disagree with that choice. I'm not a big fan of Bray Wyatt and the Fiend. My pick was Darby Allin, and this is coming from the perspective of Darby Allin started out the year as a relatively unknown nationally Pacific Northwest indie guy to wrestling in the upper mid card, main eventing AEW shows. He had that great match that went to the draw with Cody. He had that great title shot against Chris Jericho. He had shown that he is a huge star. I wouldn't be surprised if going forward he gets a title reign late in 2020 or in 2021. Oh yeah, don't forget, he's only 22 years old.
Well, I was younger than I am. I feel like I've wasted my life. I mean, I picked MJF. I did because, I mean, the guy's, 22, 23? He can talk. He can talk like nobody's business, and he looks the part, with his Burberry scarves, the suits, and he has Wardlow accompanying him now, and, yeah, man, I mean, we knew he was going to turn on Cody and all this other stuff, but it was just, when's it going to happen, this, and he's exceptional in the ring, I think he can just make a career out of just talking and wrestling when he absolutely has to. Brandon, what do you think about Bray winning, and who was your pick?
Well, I gotta agree with Jay on this one. I'm starting to kind of fall off the Bray Wyatt Fiend bandwagon. I was a big fan early on just because it was so different, but then I was kind of weary about what the product was going to be in the ring, and unfortunately, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. My pick as well was Darby Allin. Out of all of these guys on this list, Darby Allin was, I think, the only person who I never really heard of before of 2019. I saw him on a documentary for Vice. I was intrigued of what he was. Then he comes on to AEW. He had that stellar match with Cody. And he might not have reached the heights as some of these other guys were, but I think he's really, risen the most out of everyone. And also someone, I don't know if I would consider this a breakout star, maybe like comeback player of the year, some Lance Archer. I think what Lance Archer did in the G1 this year was absolutely fantastic, going from just your run-in-the-mill big man tag team guy to being, a killer monster singles guy in that U.S. division for New Japan. I think he's been fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think we will have to have like a comeback of the year where Bray Wyatt would have really fit into that element. People said, why isn't Keith Lee on here? Look, Keith in the last 30 days, that's when his stock really started to rise. You can say the same about Rhea Ripley. That's if it had happened in like, I don't know, maybe August, July coming into now, then they would have been on this list, but the past 30 days, nope, but they're doing good work. Probably in 2020, they will be on this list. All right, moving on. Road Warriors Tag Team of the Year. Our nominees are, number 1, the Street Profits. They bring the swag like nobody else. Number 2, Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. Number 3, the Young Bucks. Number 4 is the New Day. Number 5 is the former LAX Santana and Ortiz, a.k.a. Proud and Powerful. And number 6 is Pentagon and Rey Fenix, the Lucha Bros. Ladies and gentlemen, our tag team of the year, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, the Undisputed Era. The prophecy was fulfilled. I mean, Adam went on to become NXT champ. Roddy has a North American championship. These guys 3-time NXT tag team champions. You could make arguments for maybe Kairi Sane and Asuka should have been on this list. That's a possibility. The Kabuki Warriors have really come into their own the last couple months with the mist and all that other stuff and putting on matches with Becky and Charlotte. But yeah, man, Undisputed Era takes it home. Jay, what do you think?
Man, I've been a fan of the Undisputed Era going back to their days in Ring of Honor. Fish and O'Reilly as Red Dragon, Cole kind of tagging on his own. Originally, Cole came into Ring of Honor as a tag team with Kyle O'Reilly back in the day as Future Shock, and to see them come together with Roddy Strong, that kind of old ROH crew, man, those guys were ROH main eventers. They were great in ROH. They're still great in NXT. I love Fish and O'Reilly as a tag team, just their kind of MMA hard-hitting style. It looks really good. It comes across just as really nasty tag team offense. But, man, I got to say, my pick was the Lucha Bros. They just have a huge body of work this year. According to Cage Match, they've wrestled in 42 promotions this year. You got probably some small Mexican indies in there. That number could be as high as 50, man. They've had great matches in AAA. They had a great match at PWG's Bola Night 1 against Flamita and Bandito. They've had the rivalry with the Young Bucks and AEW. Don't forget, even at the beginning of the year, man, I know it seems like a long time ago, but in the beginning of 2019, they had some great matches against LAX, now known as Proud and Powerful, back when they were in Impact, man. They have been all over the world putting on great matches in every promotion. They are true Road Warriors in every sense of the term.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, man. You know, but you could make a claim for the Lucha Bros. I mean, I feel like really now of this year they've really come together as a team. Because before I just knew Pentagon as a singles guy, and then I just found out about Ray like late last year, then early this year. You know, so it's very, very interesting where these guys are going to go. Hopefully, they will become AEW Tag Team Champions, and I mean they will, but just like soon, very, very soon. I think they can have a banger with. Oh my God, we didn't even throw Why wasn't SCU thrown out there, Brandon?
I don't know. I mean, I don't make the entirety of the list. You know, I put some of my favorite people in there, but you know, SCU, they didn't really come to mind. To be honest with you, I would have thought maybe you put the Revival in there. I think the Revival might have had the most matches out of anybody in WWE. Personally, my pick for Tag Team of the Year was Undisputed Era. I will concede to Jay that I haven't seen everything from the Lucha Bros. I do kind of forget that they were in TNA earlier in the year, but my pick was Undisputed Era just because, you know, I've seen them throughout the entirety of the year. They had great matches, not only on takeovers, but on regular NXT television. But I think Undisputed Era has been fantastic. I love Kyle O'Reilly. I think Kyle O'Reilly could be like a breakout single star. I think people kind of pigeonhole him into a tag team, even though I love him with Bobby Fish, you know, Red Dragon. I love those guys. But Kyle O'Reilly might be my favorite Undisputed Era member. I'm just saying, even over Adam Cole Bebe.
Wow, hot take. I enjoy the pairing of O'Reilly and Strong better than O'Reilly and Fish, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I like Fish as a singles guy. I mean, he was in Ring of Honor television champion. Had a beautiful run with that championship. So, yeah, maybe we switch some things around coming up in 2020. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our female wrestler of the year. It's the Mae Young Award. Somebody asked me why wasn't it Moolah, and if Moolah had a very questionable past in life. So yeah. All right, here we go. Our nominees are the Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch, the Queen Charlotte Flair, Io Shirai, Tessa Blanchard, Shayna Baszler, who was just the NXT Women's Champion as of, about a week ago, and the AEW Women's Champion Rio. Ladies and gentlemen, female wrestler of the year, the man, Becky Lynch. I mean, she won the main event of WrestleMania, first ever female main event of WrestleMania. She went to a little kerfuffle. You know, she had that interesting story with Lacey Evans, and then she got mixed in with Seth because they're dating. But the Extreme Rules mixed tag match, as Branon has said in the past, I watched it back last night. It was good. It was very good. She took the end of days like a champ, you know. But yeah, so Becky, she's done some good work, and then her feud with Sasha going into this summer. So yeah, man, Becky's the big winner. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I love me some Becky. Give me that Becky. I believe she won last year. Am I correct, Phillip? So back-to-back Women Wrestler of the Year for the Bulletcast Awards.
That is true. That's when she became the man.
Yeah, I mean, Becky Lynch, she was on fire at the beginning of the year. Maybe she's cooled off since then, but I think she's still, one of the best, if not the best women's wrestler. I mean, I don't know if I'd say best women's wrestler because I don't watch Japanese women's wrestling enough, but I loved what Becky Lynch did. My pick for NXT Women's Wrestler of the Year was Shayna Baszler. I think what Shayna has done, being the champion the entirety of the year, and then just it coming, to an end so fantastically with Rhea Ripley, because Shayna was, the badass, credible heel, and she finally, quote unquote, showed some ass and was scared of Rhea Ripley, and that just paid off. They made Rhea look like so much a bigger star. And I think Rhea, I know you kind of talked about it, I think she should be on this list, not only what she did the past couple months on NXT, but also being the NXT UK Women's Champion. So she's been around the entirety of the year that I think she deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, but I'm going to stick by it. Like, the real rise came about, 30 days ago when entering the Survivor Series pay-per-view event. Jay, what are your thoughts?
I really like the run up to WrestleMania with Becky just talking insane amounts of trash on Twitter as the man. But I feel like her run after WrestleMania kind of fizzled out. I feel like that WrestleMania main event kind of had that weird botchy ending with Ronda Rousey, and so yeah, I don't know. I couldn't vote for her. I put in Tessa Blanchard. I feel like Tessa has put in an amazing year. Her feud with Sami Callihan in Impact has been great. She's had good matches in AAA and in the Indies, tagging with Daga, her real-life fiance. I saw Tessa back in 2016 at a Lucha Underground taping in a dark match. She was tagging with Ricochet when he was under the mask as Prince Puma. And I was very impressed by her, and I looked her up later, and I was like, oh, she doesn't have much experience. She looks pretty crisp in the ring for not having that much time. And 3 years since then, man, she has just become one of the top wrestlers in the world, regardless of gender. I gotta say, Impact screwed up by not putting the title on her in 2019. I have a feeling she's going to be winning that strap in early 2020 off their champion, Sami Callihan.
Yeah, man, I do believe that as well, and of course she looks crisp in the ring. Her father's a horseman. They were all crisp. But Tessa's story is very interesting. We're not going to really get into it here. My boy Chris Van Vliet, go check out his interview with Tessa. She gets to tell how she got to the point she is. Fascinating interview. I love her story. But we're gonna move on. We got the Death Throat promo of the year. There we go. Hootie hoo. There's your impersonation. All right, number one is his son, Cody Rhodes. I love my brother hyping up his match with Dustin at Double or Nothing. We have 2, Jon Moxley, the paradigm shift right after he makes his AEW debut at Double or Nothing. We talked about how he was caged and how he's broken out. I understand. I've broken out too. I get it. I love the paradigm shift. CM Punk's promo on Tom Arnold. This was a Brandon pick. He decided to have it on here. Batista's Give Me What I Want. Batista's probably given us one of the best GIFs, memes of all time. And then Finn Balor's You're Going to Go From Johnny Wrestling to Johnny Watches Wrestling. I really did like that. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of promo of the year, he's the grandson of a plumber. Executive Vice President of All Elite Wrestling, Cody Rhodes, his "I Love My Brother." Now we're gonna play a snippet of it. We're gonna get the real juice of that right now.
Is that this match is generation versus generation. I am not here to kill Dustin Rhodes. I'm here to kill the Attitude Era. My entire lot, my whole class of peers, has been compared to these gilded late 90s through the early 2000s for over a decade, and it's an utter sham. Sure, you paved the roads for us, but gosh, you set the speed markers at 35 because you are terrified of any of us putting our foot down on the pedal.
You get the gist. You get the gist. And yeah, I mean, Cody has a lot to say about that. How his generation, his lot of peers, as he said, is really looked down upon by the older generation of like just spot monkeys like the Young Bucks or maybe even a Kenny Omega, and not really selling and taking time to tell a story. Branon, what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely loved this Cody Rhodes promo. This was my pick for promo of the year, as I said earlier with the CM Punk pipe bomb. You know, this decade, this era of wrestling isn't really a promo, generation, but we still have great talkers, and I think Cody is definitely in that upper class. And this and the Jon Moxley paradigm shift one, I was kind of going back and forth of which one I liked better. Jon Moxley coming off the high of Double or Nothing, he cuts this Jon Moxley promo that we've been waiting for so long. He could have done this in WWE, but he didn't. The chains are off. But I think what put me over the edge, especially since this is the Dusty Rhodes promo of the year, the real reason for promos is to draw money. And this Cody Rhodes promo was in the build-up to Double or Nothing, his match with his brother. And, just sitting there on the couch watching this on YouTube, just like, especially as I was going to see the match, I was like, okay, I'm ready. This is going to be the match I want to see. And this was a money-drawing promo. And that's what promos in wrestling should be.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
I gotta say, man, Cody has really come on as one of the best promos in all of wrestling. That was a great promo. I did not choose it. I chose Jon Moxley's Paradigm Shift as my promo of the year. I'm really a fan of the more raw, emotional, fiery type of promos, and that's exactly what the Jon Moxley Paradigm Shift promo was. He had broken the shackles of WWE and now had a chance to spread his wings and spread his brand of violence in AEW. I mean, just looking at the video, you could tell he was a completely different person. He looked completely different. His physique was even really different. He was in the best shape of his career, having trained at Extreme Couture, the MMA gym owned by former UFC champ in two weight divisions, Randy Couture, located there in Moxley's home of Vegas. He just came in just looking like a completely different person and got to really unleash all of that in the promo. It was really a classic promo in the vein of those old Stone Cold, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, Tommy Dreamer, like violent wild man type of promos, and I loved it, man. And it just goes to show you yet another example of how WWE creative just stifles these wrestlers and their potential by over scripting these promos that they run.
Yeah, man. I mean, there are instances where guys are allowed to be creative, probably like on a network exclusive or like WWE.com video. Like, some of the best promos Daniel Bryan cut late 2018, 2019 were on WWE.com. He cut promos about like t-shirts and hot dogs, and the stuff was fantastic, but it doesn't make it on WWE TV, so not a lot of people really get to see it, Unless like you hear about it or unless you're actually seeking it out, you know what I mean? Where you're watching Raw or SmackDown and boom, it's just there for you. But the Cody promo, I mean, Baby Huey mentioned to me that it should have been the one where he's calling out Jericho, calling him talk about how Jericho said that his whole group are entitled millennials. That was a great promo. It was fantastic, Cody talks about how it took 14 years to go from undesirable to undeniable. But this one, it was smooth, it was calm, it was quiet. He's emerging from the darkness, and he talks about watching his brother wrestle at the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, and just all this other stuff that it speaks to you, But we are going to keep the AEW talk rolling with this next award, the Joey Styles "Oh My God" moment of the year. So the number one pick to start it off was AEW's official announcement. Number 2 was Jon Moxley's AEW debut. 3, CM Punk returns to WWE after a 5-year absence to WWE backstage. And 4, Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley stage explosion. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of Oh My God Moment of the Year, Jon Moxley's AEW debut. Brandon and I were there. Jay, I know you're jealous of it, like you said yesterday, but look, it was just one of the best things that you can ever experience. You know, Jericho's in there cutting a promo after he hits the Judas effect on Kenny and becomes pseudo number 1 contender to the AEW title, and you just hear this roar from people, and we're like, what? And then if you watch it back and listen to Jim Ross's commentary, that was probably Jim's best night of commentary since he's been with AEW. It was just real raw. You did have elements of the old JR, but getting back to it, you know, it was smart to wear the Mox on the back because people were like, okay, this is Mox. You know, this isn't Dean Ambrose. This isn't the guy that got the grandiose send-off by WWE, which Vince was an idiot for that. His star rose even more by doing that. But yeah, it was just cool tossing Kenny off the poker chips and that shot of him just embracing it like, look, I'm free, and I'm ready to go. Brandon, you were there. You got to tell us how you felt.
I mean, it was an absolutely insane moment, something I will never forget. Going into it, a lot of people, I don't know if I'd say expected Jon Moxley to be there at the end of the show, but people were talking. They wanted to see Jon Moxley, and I think people weren't really not excited, but I think they were kind of saving their energy during that Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho match because they knew something was probably going to happen at the end of the show. And I was sitting on the other side of the arena. I could see Jon Moxley walking down the stands, Shield-esque, and you can just kind of see the crowd just kind of around, and you could feel the energy and the sound, slowly building up, and then once he jumps over the barricade and everyone in the arena sees who it is, the place goes absolutely insane, brawls out with Kenny, goes literally right in front of me, off the chips, sends, the crowd home happy. And, we're going to talk about Double or Nothing as a show in a whole, but being the first AEW show, they send that shot, we got your boy, Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley's here, and, we're going to do what you guys couldn't do. We're going to make him an absolute star.
Jay, what were your thoughts on Mox's debut?
I'm totally in agreement, guys. I mean, it was what I thought sitting at home watching it. Very jealous, again, like you said, of you guys being there live because, man, I got to say, that is probably the closest you could get to being at one of those Attitude Era Raws live when Stone Cold comes out to close the show, right? I mean, you've got everyone watching in the arena just going absolutely bonkers. We're watching at the Rudo Dojo. I was watching with my co-host Scotty and some other friends. We were getting hyped. Everyone on the crowd was totally hyped. It was an electric moment. And this moment and that promo, like I said, it just goes to show you what WWE had on their hands and just completely missed the boat. They had their next Stone Cold Steve Austin with Mox, the anti-hero kind of character. His promos, his style, his attitude, his swagger, all of that. And they just completely wasted it and ground him into dust. And now, thankfully, we get to see that potential on full display in AEW. He's got his title match against Jericho coming up in early 2020. And if he wins, he could be the ace to carry the banner for AEW into the future.
Yeah, that's very true. Hopefully that happens. I mean, Brandon and I are planning on going back to Vegas for Double or Nothing too. Jay, you should come along with us, man.
We'll see if it's in the travel budget.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that does happen. Double or Nothing too. Possibly could happen in February at that pay-per-view. But yeah, what really hurt the Mox debut was the TV should have started at least a month later. I know, it's kind of hard with networks and deals, especially TNT being, Time Warner and all this big stuff. But if they had gotten a deal sooner, I feel like AEW would be in a very, very different spot than it is today, because it's kind of fallen off. I mean, there are some things that do need a lot of work. I mean, I cut a promo the other week about how there are too many cults in wrestling, but there are just too many cults in AEW, stuff like that. We're not going to get into that here, but you know what I mean. It's just a lot of things need work, need big work. But moving on from that, we're going to get into the worst moment of the year, the blood money moment of the year. Why? Because blood money's no good, and that's why it's the worst moment of the year. Here we go. Number 1, Goldberg versus The Undertaker, Saudi Showdown. Number 2, the Hell in a Cell main event. 3, Lana Rusev Lashley storyline. And 4, Chad Gable becomes Shorty G. Ladies and gentlemen, Lana, Rusev, and Lashley. It wins. The storyline just doesn't make sense. Lana's gonna leave Rusev because he wanted too much sex, and she's just gonna go have sex with Bobby Lashley. It doesn't make any sense. She pretended to have a child by Rusev, pretended to be impregnated just so Rusev can get beat up. What are we doing? What are we really doing? You know, Jay, what's happening? Why is Lana like this?
Man, I don't know. I don't get this. This is the crappy storyline out of the mind of a half senile septuagenarian. I mean, and it's so embarrassing to see Rusev, who is a great wrestler, right? We even wrestled here locally in APW. He had that really hot run with the U.S. title, culminating in that match at WrestleMania down in Santa Clara against John Cena when he came out on the tank, which we later found out as part of this storyline. They were doing a little extracurricular activity in the tank before the match. But you look at the wasted potential of Rusev, man. He could have been a main eventer. He could have been a huge star. He's great in promos. I mean, all of this kind of burying of him goes back to Rusev and Lana announcing their engagement in the middle of the hot summer storyline with Summer Rae and Dolph Ziggler. And really, ever since then, it's just completely soured them on Vince. And Vince appears to be just holding a grudge against Rusev, continually burying him. And we just see it again here with this storyline.
Branon?
Well, I can see why people didn't like the Lana, Rusev, and Lashley storyline because, it doesn't make any sense. It's Jerry Springer garbage television. But my pick was the Hell in a Cell main event, mainly because, Lana, Rusev, and Lashley, that's a mid-card storyline. But the Hell in a Cell main event is the main event, and it was just an absolute disaster. Oh, what a year I have had watching some live wrestling. I go from watching Jon Moxley's debut, the best moment of the year, to watching probably the worst moment, the worst match of the year, that Hell in a Cell main event with The Fiend and Seth Rollins. It was just a clusterfuck all the way around. There was the red lighting. There was the terrible finish. The crowd was chanting AEW, and people forget, but this was like the couple days after AEW Dynamite debut, so the buzz for AEW is pretty strong, and you could see, it didn't really turn out this way, but you could have foreseen, a lot of people being like, okay, I'm done with WWE. This is trash, and AEW could have used this and catapulted themselves to really sustain that 1 million plus rating. It didn't happen, but I would say that Hell in a Cell main event was the worst thing of the year.
I agree. That was my vote. Hell in a Cell, it's supposed to end rivalries, not start them off. That's another thing where we need to get rid of. I think we should do what's the worst gimmick to pay-per-view of the year. We should probably do that next year. But it's supposed to end rivalries and some referee stoppage. That's not how this is supposed to go. I just don't like that. You sat through that. I've sat through House of Horrors. Brandon, you've also sat through that, and I think you said the Hell in a Cell main event was worse. Correct?
Yeah, just because people for the House of Horrors show, they were like, okay, this is just stupid. I'm going to go to the bathroom or get something to drink. But this was the main event. This is what everybody was here for. And then the thing goes off the air. People are booing. They're cussing out Seth Rollins, your top babyface. It did a lot more damage to the product than House of Horrors did.
Yeah, it's it helped get Seth to where he is today. And I'm liking what I've seen from Seth so far, so let's give it a few more months. Like once we hit like March with this new Seth character, maybe it would have been a plus, a win. And I know people don't see it as that right now, but it's probably going to be a big win moving forward with the evolution of Seth Rollins. All right, our Roddy Piper heel turn of the year. I'm a heel in real life, ladies and gentlemen. Don't come up and talk to me. I'll heel off on you. Here we go. Number 1, AJ Styles joins the OC, the original, the only club that matters. Number 2, Shawn Spears becomes the chairman. 3, Dakota Kai turns on everybody. 4, MJF turns on Cody Rhodes. 5, Bayley kills the Bayley Buddies. And 6, the Prince is back, the real rock and roller. Finn Balor turns heel in NXT. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner is Finn Balor. I mean, what he's really gone back into do, I got to see him at San Jose State a few weeks ago for the NXT House Show. I was surprised, didn't expect to see him, but it's just a new swagger about Finn. It's better than the happy-go-lucky Finn. He's gonna smile and throw his hands in the air and pose on the turnbuckle. No, it's different. It's different. It's cool. It's more calm and collected. It's more vicious. He's finishing matches with the 1916 instead of the coup de grace. I love it. I love everything about it. Jay, you're a big Japan guy. What are your thoughts on the Prince being back?
Hey man, I think it's his best persona. I mean, that's really what he is best at, is that smug, just a-hole, violent heel. I love him using the Bloody Sunday. I'm sorry, I can't call it the 1916. It's WWE. They can't have blood in the name, but I mean it refers to an event, a very famous event in Irish history, the Bloody Sunday. So I gotta bring out the reference there for that. I think it's a great finisher. I like him doing it. I think he did it on somebody on the ramp. I think it was Gargano or something, man. It just looks so nasty. But, man, my pick was MJF turning on Cody. MJF, I mean, you talked about it earlier. We talked about it with his promos and just his smug heel, just annoying a-hole. You just want to punch the guy in the face, man. I mean, it works, man. He's great at it. And it's very much in the vein of that Rick Rude type of heel. And that's a really high compliment, because for me, I feel like Rick Rude is one of the best heels of all time. As Vince Russo would say, he's got to get that heat, bro.
Wow, I can't remember the last time Vince Russo was mentioned on the show, let alone an impersonation of a Vince Russo. I think it was on Jericho's podcast recently. I'm going to have to go check that out. I mean, I do agree with you, but I think I did pick the Finn Balor one just because I'd like to see some elements of the Japan aspect of his career into the WWE NXT element that he's in right now, and I'm excited. I really am. And plus, like the Pele kick that he throws out there now, that's dope. I mean, it's right on the button. The one he hit on Adam Cole, I was like, oh my god, that's genius. It's brilliant. But we're gonna move on. Congratulations, Finn Balor, heel turn of the year. We got to go over to the
Wow, Phillip, you're just gonna ignore me?
Oh my god! But did you not speak?
I did not speak.
Oh, well, speak, brother. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll let it slide this time. Just don't do it again. Okay. Anyways, I like the Finn Balor heel turn, but I didn't pick it. I got to agree with Jay. I got to go with the MJF turn. I think as a turn, it was fantastic. You know, the story, long-term storytelling in wrestling can still be a thing, and MJF is just a diddler in the Cultaholic podcast sense of the word.
There we go. Referencing Cultaholic, I love all that, you know? We should get MJF on the show one day. I think that would be highly entertaining. Yeah. All right, now we can move on. Can we do that now?
I'll allow it.
All right. Oh, you're the big boss now.
Yeah, I'm starting to turn into MJF.
No, you're Shug. You're Shug in these streets. All right.
So what does that make you, Tupac?
I mean, Phil Pac Shakur. I'm down. Holla if you hear me. No, that's Big Papa Pump. Jesus. Anyway, moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Mega Powers storyline of the year. Why? The Mega Powers coming together and exploding. Possibly one of the greatest stories ever told. Two men who were great friends, or they have a falling out. Why? Because of a woman. That's what happens in life, man. You know, Macho Man's jealousy got the best of him, and of course Hogan had to go over and all this other stuff. But anyway, story of the year. Number 1, Kofi Kingston's road to WrestleMania. Number 2, Cody Rhodes versus Chris Jericho ahead of, Full Gear. 3, the woman main event WrestleMania. 4, Adam Cole Bebe versus Johnny Gargano. And 5, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner is Kofi Kingston's road to WrestleMania, locking in the ballot about 6 days before the big event to go on and win the WWE Championship from Daniel Bryan. Branon, he beat your boy D-Bry. What are your thoughts on Kofi's road to the championship?
He did beat my boy D-Bry, but I was perfectly fine with it. This was my pick for storyline of the year. I thought Kofi Kingston's redemption storyline after, not being allowed to, reach the mountaintop for so long, he finally got it. And, a lot of other of these storylines were maybe wrestling heavy, like Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley. Maybe those matches may have been a little bit better, but I just thought, the pure emotion of Kofi Kingston winning at WrestleMania just tops all of it.
Jay.
I'm not a big WWE fan. I don't really follow it that much, but I really followed the Kofi storyline in the lead up to WrestleMania. And I really liked it, man. I thought it was really well done. The story of the savvy veteran who had never really gotten a top title shot before and getting that shot finally, and really just that whole lead up, that build up with Daniel Bryan. I mean, Bryan, we know, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's great at promos. And having that kind of foil to work off of for Kofi, it just made for a great storyline. It was really entertaining. It's my vote for storyline of the year.
There we go. All right, we're going to move on to Viva la Raza, the Eddie Guerrero Championship winner of the year. Why did we name it after Eddie? He won the WWE Championship with the Cow Palace. One of the best title wins ever. That's why we had to name it after the late, great Eddie Guerrero. So here we go. Number 1, Johnny Gargano wins the NXT Championship, NXT TakeOver New York. 2, Becky Lynch becomes Becky 2 belts at the end of WrestleMania 35, winning both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. 3, Kofi Kingston wins the WWE title at WrestleMania 4. Adam Cole, baby, wins the NXT title at NXT TakeOver 25. Chris Jericho becomes the inaugural AEW World Champion at All Out. And then 6, Kazuchika Okada wins the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in Madison Square Garden. Ladies and gentlemen, our winner for Championship Win of the Year is Kofi Kingston winning the WWE title at WrestleMania. It means so much to me because, we finally have an African-born WWE champion. It took, let's see, a week after Kofi wins, the title becomes 56 years old. So it took 55 years for us to finally get to this point. Now, and people say, oh, well, The Rock. Look, not discrediting Dwayne, love Rocky. But, we have a fully just African-born WWE champion. That's what we got out of Kofi. And the run afterwards was pretty damn good. I thought, all right, he's going to lose it a month later. It's going to be cool. We got the moment, and that was it. 6-7 month run until he did dirty by Brock Lesnar. But yeah, man, so Kofi's championship win means the world to me. Never going to forget it. Shed some tears. I did. I'm a grown man, and I cried for another grown man being told he was going to win a championship. Yes, I did. Jay, did you cry?
I got a little choked up watching it. I didn't shed any tears, but I felt it, man. I felt the emotion. And that's what made this such a great championship win. And not to mention, it was a great freaking match, man. You got Daniel Bryan and Kofi. They're both great wrestlers. They put on the best match easily of that WrestleMania. My only complaint is that they didn't get more time, man. Give them 10 minutes. Give them 10, 15 more minutes. They could have just put on an even more epic match. And like you said, the loss to Brock Lesnar, man, that's rough, man. That's rough. And I hate to say it, and for me, it does tarnish the memory a little bit of this amazing match, of this amazing championship win, with how dirty they did Kofi with that loss to Brock Lesnar. It was just embarrassing that they did that. And I try to put it out of my mind when I think about this, so it's not to spoil the moment in my memory, but it's not easy, man.
It's not. I mean, I did have my my qualms with Kofi just doing the job in like 8 or 9 seconds to Brock. But Branon, your thoughts on Kofi winning the big title at the big show?
Very similar to storyline of the year. I picked Kofi winning at WrestleMania as my championship win of the year. I mean, every single one of these title wins, great matches all the way around. When the weak link is that triple threat match, with the women's match at the end of WrestleMania. I mean, we got a bunch of great matches on here. I also got to show some love to my boy Kazuchika Okada, being the first time ever the IWGP Championship ever changed hands on North American soil at MSG against Switchblade. That was an amazing match. I mean, every single thing on this list was great championship wins.
Absolutely. Now I know Brandon's about to get upset with this next category. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, as we discuss our Bobby Heenan Award for Commentator of the Year. Number 1, Mauro Ranallo. Number 2, Corey Graves. 3, good old JR, Jim Ross. 4 is Excalibur. 5 is Kevin Kelly of New Japan. 6 is Nigel McGuinness. And 7, the voice of WWE, Michael Cole. And ladies and gentlemen, our commentator of the year is...
No, EC3, don't tell me! Don't tell me! Mamma mia! Mamma mia!
It's Morrow. It's Morrow. I mean, who else, really? Really, who else? Now, Brandon, go ahead and get upset.
You know, I've cooled down. You know, I might have got a little hot yesterday on a recording that no one's going to hear, but my pick was Kevin Kelly. You know, I think this might show that maybe a lot of our listeners don't watch New Japan all that often. I think Kevin Kelly was by far the commentator of the year. I think what he does, it matches the tone of New Japan so great. You know, people might think, oh, that's Kevin Kelly from 20 years ago. He was getting clowned by The Rock. How great can he actually be? But if you listen to him, I think he has a great sports-like demeanor. He comes across, you know, he's not really heel or babyface. He's just a straight man. He calls what he sees. And, you know, maybe there's some hijinks with Rocky Romero and stuff. But, I mean, I love Kevin Kelly. I thought he was the best commentator there. No hate for Mauro. You know, I'm an NXT guy. I love Mauro Ranallo. Sometimes he can be a little over the top. Excalibur, I love him as well. But I thought Kevin Kelly was my commentator. Because when it comes to these big matches in New Japan, he always delivers.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I'm going to throw it to Jay in a second. But, I mean... Kevin Kelly, the best call I've ever heard from him is the Shaka and Osaka, the whole Okada and Omega thing. He's done some good work, but, you know, like I said yesterday, liked him better in WWF in the 90s. That's just my preference, man. Yeah, I went there. But I think next year, Ian Riccaboni from Ring of Honor, I think he might be in the conversation because he's doing some exceptional work over there, even though their product has really just fallen off since a lot of their core talent has left. Jay, you love New Japan. What are your thoughts on Kevin Kelly, Mauro Ranallo, all this stuff?
Now, I gotta say, I'm a big fan of Mauro Ranallo, but I just feel like the quality of his commentary has dropped off the past couple of years in NXT. I mean, I've seen Mauro Ranallo going back to his calling of New Japan when they were on Access TV, his work in Pride Fighting Championship, the MMA promotion in Japan. I've been a fan of Mauro Ranallo for years, but I feel like just his work in NXT and kind of how they build the matches around really big spots and the kind of, it just, I don't know, it doesn't work, and his going over the top has really just, he's kind of gone a little too hard onto it, and I think he needs to pull it back a little bit and kind of find some of that older Moro style, and I think it'll improve his commentary a bit. I much respect for Kevin Kelly. I think the team in New Japan is the best team in all of commentary. Kevin Kelly, Chris Charlton, the Japanese translator, Rocky Romero doing color. I think that's the best team in all of wrestling, but my pick was actually Excalibur. I mean, I loved Excalibur going back to his days in PWG as a commentator in the commentary booth shaped like a table there at PWG. And now you look at it, he's got to do a pretty tough job in AEW because here we go. I'm gonna say it. He's got to carry JR. He's got to carry JR. JR is not the JR of old. I feel like JR is a bit of a liability now. And Excalibur's got to carry him, man.
No, I mean, look, I gotta do it again. Let me defend JR, you know, voice of my childhood, man. Go back and listen to Double or Nothing. Like, there are elements of him still there. Now, obviously, he's older and he has the Ball's palsy or whatever. That's, I mean, ailments, they get worse as you get older, all that other stuff. But, I mean, there are certain elements. What really hurts JR, I said this yesterday, he apologizes for stuff before he says it. Like, Emi Sakura, did I say her name right? Jay, did I get it? Did I get it right?
Sakura. Emi Sakura.
Emi Sakura. I'm sorry. Apologize. The Freddie Mercury cosplay. You know, when he said, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this, but she's different. She's Oriental. She's Asian. A woman. I'm like, what? Like, what do you can't say stuff like that in 2019. People are gonna get offended, and people did get offended. And then, you know, there's other commentary that's offensive. We're not even gonna get into what's his face? Good old Jim Cornette. But yeah, I mean, Jim Ross. There are certain elements where he can be his old self. It's just, you know, And Morrow does need to tone it down. If we can get like Morrow to just tone it down like 45%, like every Wednesday night does not need to be a takeover. Save the Mamma Mia's for takeovers. Come up with something new for regular week-to-week TV. And if Jim has given us like 45. Can we get another 30%? Can we at least get 75% out of
I think I gotta defend my boy Morrow, because yes, he is very, very over the top on those NXT takeovers, but when it comes to the weekly NXT television, I feel like he is kind of subdued. Like, yes, he might go a wee bit on like the main events. I mean, if you saw last week, those were two main event takeover style matches, so yes, he would have went over the top. But for the most part, on weekly NXT TV, I think he's pretty subdued, and he does a good job of telling the story in the ring without taking away from it too much with his gimmicks.
Yeah, I mean, no, there are moral gimmicks that I enjoy, like the pop culture references. Somebody opened up a window, it's like Travis Scott antidote, something like that. I enjoy all of that. I'm just saying, like, let's tone it back a little bit, Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Love Morrow, love him to death. Love Jim Ross, love a lot of these guys. Not all, but a lot. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the granddaddy of them all. This is the show of the year. This was the best show of 2019, as voted on by the people who voted on this list. Number 1, Wrestle Kingdom. Number 2, the Royal Rumble. Number 3, WrestleMania 35. Number 4, AEW's first pay-per-view event, Double or Nothing. And number 5, NXT TakeOver Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, AEW wins out yet again with Double or Nothing. I'm going to be biased. I was there. MGM Garden Arena in Vegas. I've been to a lot of wrestling shows in my day. Been to a lot of different venues. But this, it was different, obviously, because it was their first show. There was a lot of hype to it. I got pulled into a focus group. I got paid $150 to talk about this show before it even happened. Yeah. That's how excited I was. That's how excited people were about this show, and it absolutely delivered. Now, people can say, oh, this is just a 3-match card with Cody and Dustin, Kenny and Jericho, and then the Bucks versus the Lucha Bros. But look, it delivered. A lot of people were showcased that probably shouldn't have been showcased that early on, I'm not going to lie, with the Battle Royal and the Joshi 6-man or 6-woman tag, I'm not going to lie. But other than that, overall, this was a good show. We got the feels. You loved it. If this is what a WCW pay-per-view felt like in its prime, then I loved everything about it. Jay, you weren't in the building, but what was your reaction to Double or Nothing?
I really like Double or Nothing. I feel like it was AEW's best pay-per-view. I feel like it was the best American pay-per-view, the best American event of the year. AEW is still struggling to reach that crescendo that they achieved with Double or Nothing. And like you said, with having the delay until TV started, they did lose a little bit of that momentum because that card was so great. It set them up with some real heat, and a little of it cooled off up into the premiere of Dynamite. But my pick for the show of the year, Wrestle Kingdom 13, January 4th, 2019, the Tokyo Dome. Man, this show opened with the main card having Will Ospreay versus Kota Ibushi, and it was just Will Ospreay's first match with the Never Openweight Championship, and just set him up for the amazing year that he had. You look at this card, Juice and Cody had a good match. You had a great juniors match with Taiji Ishimori and Kushida. Kushida kind of being on his way out. Jay White beating Kazuchika Okada. Naito and Jericho had a really great match. And then finally, to top it off, the best bout machine, Kenny Omega, losing his IWGP Heavyweight Championship after he won it off of Okada in Okada 4 at Dominion in 2018, losing it to the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, in a fantastic match, an emotional match, and really a great match for Kenny to go out on as his final NJPW match and title defense.
Brandon?
Well, I love Wrestle Kingdom. It always is kind of hard to kind of look back almost a year from today that was like, oh, those Wrestle Kingdom matches, it's kind of hard to really remember how great they were. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom was fantastic, but I think maybe it was a tick down from some of the other Wrestle Kingdom shows. Maybe it was a 9 instead of a 10, but I know I'm biased. My pick was Double or Nothing. I think just everything surrounding, I think all the matches delivered. Yes, maybe the pre-show wasn't all that great, but I think everything on the main card delivered. You had 2 legit match of the year candidates with that tag team match and the Cody Destin match, and then as we talked about the Jon Moxley angle at the end, I thought everything worked. And once again, it was kind of more than just a regular wrestling card. It was the first shot of AEW saying, this is what we're about, this is what we're going to do. And I think that's what kind of put me over the top. That maybe Wrestle Kingdom was a better wrestled show. There was a lot more better matches, but I think Double or Nothing was just a better show for everything, involved in it.
Absolutely. You would think I would choose Wrestle Kingdom since it's on your boy's birthday every year, but I mean there were some good matches there. There were really good work rate matches, but I mean Double or Nothing, like I just said, I was there, But our runner-up was NXT Takeover Toronto, and let me be honest, I liked Takeover 25 better. I mean, that was something we were supposed to get here in the Bay Area, but of course, Greenwich, Connecticut, or whatever, Saudi Arabia messed all that up, so it had to happen over there on the East Coast. But yeah, I think that was better, getting Adam Cole to win the NXT Championship and Josiah Williams wrapping him down to the ring. It felt different. It reminded me of Evolution. Small venue. It was there wasn't a lot of bright lights. It was just one whole thing, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, any thoughts on that, Jay?
I don't know, man. I'm not a big NXT guy. The takeovers for me blend a little bit together. I have a hard time picking out a lot of the moments from them, and I guess maybe that's just my bias is I don't watch a ton of WWE product.
That's your thing, man. I mean, NXT is probably the best thing going right now. I mean, they deliver. They always deliver. They're delivering every single week in this quote-unquote war, I know the ratings are different. I think they tied a few weeks ago, but NXT, they're starting to win this war. They're, was it like 8-2 or something like that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, NXT completely destroyed AEW this week.
Oh, absolutely.
So the war's over. I think AEW should just quit.
Whoa, hot takes. Is that a shot at the whole company or just Tony Khan?
I mean, it's just facts. I mean, AEW didn't draw a single viewer, and then NXT gets like 800,000+ people, so win for NXT, right?
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're going to move on. This is the Brett versus Owen feud of the year. Here we go. Number 1, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, baby. 2, Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros. 3, Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens. 4, Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. And 5, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Rowdy Ronda Rousey. Ladies and gentlemen, our winner for feud of the year, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, baby. I mean, Cole going to Johnny's hometown, going to the pizzeria, and just the story they told and the matches that exceeded expectations, over-delivered, super, triple-duper over-delivered. Really good stuff from these guys in 2019. People are even saying that these matches can be held up there with the Flair Steamboat or even your Okada Omegas. And for trilogies and sequences like that to be that close together, we're talking about like Okada Omega. You have what Gargano and Ciampa did, and then Gargano and Cole. For stuff to be that close together, not even separated by 5, 6, 7 years apart, that's something special, man. That is something truly special. Brandon, you watch more New Japan than I do. What can you say about comparing Gargano and Cole to Okada Omega?
Well, I think it is kind of hard because there are two completely different styles, two different companies. Gargano and Cole, it has the weekly NXT show, so I think they're able to tell, a story. Not saying that Okada and Omega didn't have a story. They had a fantastic story in that as well. But, I would pick Omega and Okada over Gargano and Cole. Gargano Cole was my pick for feud of the year, just because I thought the matches that they had were absolutely phenomenal. And I even kind of forget, like I kind of think like, oh, they had great matches, but the story was kind of It wasn't as good as Gargano and Ciampa, but as you kind of reminded me, they had some of that stuff of Cole going to Johnny's hometown and kind of messing with his family pizzeria, and there was other, kind of blood feud going. And one of the matches on this was my pick for my match pick of the year. So that's how much I love this feud.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
I gotta say, I don't feel like the Cole Gargano feud for me had as much heat as Cole Ciampa. For me, I think a lot of the issue is around, it's not so much pronounced in NXT as it is on the main roster, but it's still, I just don't like how WWE books a lot of the feuds and stuff. I'm not a big fan of that, just the way they present it. My pick was the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks for feud of the year. I mean, you look at these guys, they put on some insane matches. They had the great title match with the shock win in AAA in Mexico when the Young Bucks won the AAA tag team titles off the Lucha Bros. You had that banger that you guys saw live at Double or Nothing. And then to top it all off, they had an even better, I think it was the best match they had all year for their rivalry, was that ladder match at All Out. This is my feud of the year. These guys have been putting on great matches in the U.S., in Mexico. Man, my pick for feud of the year.
I mean, I can agree with you. What came in second? Oh, it's Shane and KO. I don't know why they came in second. But yeah, I mean, you could argue that Young Bucks, Lucha Bros really should have come in second, because I mean, just the banger like we saw at Double or Nothing, and then the Escalera de la Muerte down over in Chicago for All Out, which was absolutely crazy. Matt Jackson nearly dying when he falls off that ladder was absolutely insane. Just really good tag team wrestling. It was insane to watch, and I can't wait for those guys to really, really do it again. So, coming up next, we have the tearjerker, the feel spot of the year. Now it's simple. Something happened in 2019. You got a little misty-eyed, like Ric Flair said, with a tear in your eye. This could be the greatest moment of your life. So here we go. Number 1, Cody hugs Dustin at Double or Nothing. 2, Kofi Kingston wins the WWE Championship. 3, Roman Reigns returns to the ring after his second battle with leukemia. And 4, Kota Ibushi, one half of the Golden Lovers, finally wins the G1 Climax. Ladies and gentlemen, our winner for Feel Spot of the Year, Cody Rhodes hugs his big brother Dustin after their insane match at Double or Nothing. Yeah, man. Get a little misty-eyed. Double or Nothing's really, really winning it off here, you get misty-eyed. People are chanting Cody, chanting Dustin. They're chanting for Dusty. It's just it was special. It was. Jay, what are your thoughts?
No, it was a special moment for me. I mean, you had that great visual. You had Dustin just bleeding. Both guys were covered in blood at that point, just hugging it out. I mean, they had that real emotional moment with the brotherly embrace. I mean, it was one of the best matches of the year. It's among the nominations, and it's one of the best matches of Cody's career. And it gets capped off with that emotional moment. And if you have a brother, you know what it's like, man. There's some times when you got beef, your stuff's not going great. You're clashing heads with your brother, but at the end of the day, blood is thicker than everything else. The fraternal bond is stronger than anything else. You love your brother, and that moment really made me think about that and my relationship with my brother and my love for my brother, and man, I'm getting a little choked up just talking about it.
Branon, you have a brother.
I do have a brother, and I actually texted him while this thing was going on. I was like, man, I love you, bro. And then, of course, he was watching the pay-per-view, so I thought he was watching it live. But no, he was like 10, 15 minutes behind, so he texted me back like, what the hell are you talking about? So he kind of ruined the moment, but it's okay. I might have been a little inebriated at the time, a little in my feelings, Drake style. But I did feel like this was the quote feel spot of the year. Full transparency, other people besides us who were at Double or Nothing, who weren't at Double or Nothing, voted this as the feel spot of the year. So it's not just, me and Phillip being biased or anything, but, stuff like this doesn't really happen in wrestling all that often. We have this and Kofi, two, and even Roman Reigns, which is kind of a different situation. But, two legit, or I guess three legit, crying moments in wrestling this year. So a lot of tears were shed this year.
Yeah, something I wanted to mention when we were talking about Show of the Year. So Double or Nothing won this year. For our awards last year, All In won. AEW wasn't a thing yet, but it was a non-WWE show. Back-to-back years, 2 non-WWE shows have won Show of the Year on this show. What does that say about the WWE product, Jason?
I mean, it's self-explanatory, man. I mean, you see with AEW now coming onto the scene, there's real competition. New Japan, although, as we just saw the news today, New Japan has lost or will not be showing wrestling on Axis this coming year due to Axis being purchased by Anthem, who also owns Impact. It's a very convoluted, complicated situation. But even then, with New Japan losing their American TV partner, a lot of people now know about the New Japan product. A lot of people are subscribing on New Japan World. There's a lot of competition out there. There's more eyes than ever on independent wrestling, on Puroresu in Japan, on Lucha Libre in Mexico. I mean, the stranglehold that the WWE has had on wrestling culture is finally breaking, and we're seeing people get exposed to all types of different products and styles and wrestlers, and it's great, man. It's really a true wrestling renaissance that we're going through right now.
It is the third boom period, as I've said in a podcast past. Branon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we have AEW, Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan stuff. I mean, literally like New Japan, almost every big show that they've done and takeovers. I know NXT is technically WWE, but I think we're really talking about main roster WWE. WWE, WrestleMania, I think, kind of delivered, but then once again, like their big shows are like 20 hours long and they're just way too much, and it kind of takes away from everything. So hopefully WWE can get their ish together next year, but I highly doubt it as long as Vince is in the chair.
Vince has moments, like I've said on shows past. Vince has moments, He may have a moment in 2020 where it's like 1997 all over again, and he's just booking the damn territory like crazy. We don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, HBK Match of the Year. Here we go. Oh, wait, oh my God, I almost forgot. That one fan mail, Match of the Decade. Let's hit that before we get into Match of the Year. Guys, what was the match? What was the match of the decade? Branon, match of the decade. Go.
I would have to say the match of the decade. We already kind of talked a little bit about it. I would say Omega and Okada. The first one at Wrestle Kingdom, it was just absolutely magical match, insane. The best match I've ever seen, and just it kind of catapulted Kenny Omega stock, Kazuchika Okada stock, having the greatest title run I've ever seen in my life. And I something maybe could top it one day, but I thought just the spots, the storytelling, the emotion was just fantastic. That's my pick of match of the decade.
Okay. Me, Branon made it obviously clear I can't pick Taker, Shawn, WrestleMania 25. Greatest wrestling match ever, by the way. I've said that time and time again, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's true. It's absolutely true. But if we have to go,
you can pick the sequel. That was in 2010.
No, nothing tops that first one. Nothing tops that first one, man. But yeah, I will go with CM Punk, John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011 for the WWE Championship, All-State Arena, Chicago. They went like 38, 40 minutes, and it was good. The story that was told, John laying out Laurinaitis and telling Vince, I'm doing this my way. He gets back in the ring. That GTS, the 1, 2, 3, that place going absolutely ape shit over that. Like, come on, man. And then Punk blowing a Vince a kiss by as he runs through the crowd with the title and throwing it in the fridge when he gets home. Like, come on, man. Stuff like that doesn't happen all the time. It was a magical moment. Summer of Punk. Jay, what's your wrestling match of the decade?
Man, I have such a hard time choosing between Okada Omega 1, like Brandon said, and Okada Omega 4. I feel like both of them have such historical significance. I think I'm going to go with Okada Omega 1 just because you had the build-up going into it of Okada winning the G1, or I'm sorry, Omega winning the G1, the first foreigner, the first Gaikakujin to win the G1. Kenny getting to cut one of his very rare Japanese promos in New Japan. New Japan didn't let him speak Japanese very much. Omega got to cut that promo, and then we had that amazing build-up to the match. We had just so many some good multi-man tags leading up to that match, and then the match absolutely delivered. And I think it was one of the important matches in bringing the current crop of New Japan fans in America over to the product, and it really generated a ton of buzz that went through the entire Omega Okada rivalry. I have to pick it as my match of the decade because of all that historical significance. It was the first meeting between the two, and man, did it deliver.
Do you guys know what Kenny Omega match is better than all of those Okada ones that happened this decade?
The one with the blow-up doll. Or was that last decade?
That's
I think it was last decade.
Last decade. Are you ready for it?
What?
Supercard of Honor 2018. Cody versus Kenny. Cody, did the thing, made Kenny do the job. Cody went over 1, 2, 3. I'm just saying, that was good right there.
If you want to watch a good Kenny Omega match that a lot of people don't know about, I highly recommend going back. You can find it online somewhere. Kenny Omega versus Kota Ibushi back in DDT, their promotion that they were in before New Japan. I highly recommend going and checking that out. That's another epic Omega match that doesn't have anything to do with New Japan. It's really interesting.
Did Kenny, did he lose that one?
Oh, do you want me to spoil it for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Did he win or lose?
Kenny lost, and Kota kicked out of the One-Winged Angel.
Oh, then I have to watch. Kenny Omega matches are only great when he loses.
Then you'd like Okada Omega 1.
I've seen, honestly, and be honest with you, didn't know who Kenny Omega was until that match. I kept hearing all this buzz about it. Mex Mendoza, who's been on the show time and time again, kept preaching about it. And I'm like, who the hell is Kenny Omega? And then I see this match, I'm like, oh, okay, But my boy Kaz Okada, he knows what's up. One of the best drop kicks in the biz.
The Rainmaker, baby. He makes it rain. Drop kicks, makes it rain cash, makes it rain gold all day.
Absolutely. All right, now, match of the year. HBK Award Match of the Year. All right, Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, NXT TakeOver New York for the NXT title. Cody versus Dustin, Double or Nothing. AEW's Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros, the AAA Tag Team Championship match at Double or Nothing. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega. IWGP Championship, Wrestle Kingdom 13. Kofi versus Daniel, WrestleMania 35 for the WWE title. And Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, Best of the Super Juniors 26, Night 15. The winner is Cody and Dustin. Look, it was a love letter to their father. Yeah, that's all that it was. Two sons, Cody is often referred to as the prodigal son, and Dustin's the old horse that wanted to go out, break out of the stable, wanted one more ride, and it was a love letter to their dad, and it was great, and it was emotional, and I got misty-eyed. God damn it, Brandon, were you misty-eyed?
I might have been a little misty-eyed, as we talked about a little earlier, but for the first time, I think all show, I'm going to pick something that wasn't on Double or Nothing. This was not my match pick of the year. Mine was Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, NXT TakeOver in New York for the NXT Championship. Johnny Gargano captures the title that he so long has tried to, and he couldn't. Call me a mark, but when Johnny Gargano finally won, it was amazing. And yes, Tanahashi Omega, that was a great match. All these matches were fantastic, but I think just something extra just kind of adds to it because Gargano has tried for so long to win that title. And I kind of went back to watch it because I was like, a lot of people like the other matches of Gargano and Cole this year, but I really like the first one at NXT TakeOver New York. They turn, the distraction finish on its head. Gargano was able to kick out of distraction finishes. Gargano doesn't want to take the count-out victory in the 2 out of 3 falls match, but then Adam Cole tries to, and then Gargano comes in at 9. There's just so many little things. Yes, Mauro Ranallo almost busts a brain vessel because he's yelling and screaming so much, but I think it works just because the crowd is going crazy along with him. That was my match pick.
All right, Jay, did you pick Tanahashi and Omega?
No, you know what? I did not pick that one. I liked that match. I thought it was a great match. I really liked Cody Dustin. I felt like that was the American match of the year. As we kind of talked about earlier, all the emotion around that. A great old school NWA style blood feud match. Just all that blood pouring out of Dustin's head, man, made you worry a little bit about his safety there with all that blood coming out. But ultimately, my pick for match of the year was Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, Best of the Super Juniors 26, Night 15. Will Ospreay getting his shot to take over Kenny Omega's slot as the top Kaikaku Jin, the top foreigner in New Japan. Shingo had been a signing coming over from Dragon Gate. He was unbeaten in singles competition up until that point, and it was just an amazing clash. I mean, both these guys, we know they're not junior heavyweights, but because of just the circumstances around it, New Japan had both of them fighting in the competing in the junior division. And this match was an amazing clash, an absolute banger. The crowd was super into it. Shingo bringing the lariats. Will Ospreay just bringing his impressive arsenal of moves, getting the win, and getting his eventual title shot at Dragon Lee, which he won and is still holding the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. That match was my match of the year. I mean, just an absolute banger, and just goes to show you what Will Ospreay. This is the second match that we've talked about him. I've talked about him today. Will Ospreay, just a great year.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're gonna get into Will Ospreay with the next category here, but I'm gonna get on Kenny Omega. I said this yesterday. I think Wrestle Kingdom was the last time you got to see the quote unquote best bout machine. Because I mean, really, AEW he hasn't been the Kenny Omega of old. I mean, I said it what was it, yesterday when we did this? Yeah. 2017, that match with Okada, the first one, up until his match with Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom this year, that 2-year gap, that's his career. That's what you're going to remember him for. I mean, the matches with Okada, the storytelling with Cody, the dissension and the civil war of the Bullet Club, the Tongan takeover and Kenny's involvement in that, some of the badass matches he's had with like Naito and Ishii in the G1 over the last couple years. That's what you're going to remember Kenny Omega for. I know I talk ish about him all the time, but seriously, when I look at his career, that's all that I'm going to remember. I'm not going to really remember, he kicks out AJ Styles of the Bullet Club or whatever. The highlight and legacy of his career starts January 4th, 2017, and it ends January 4th of 2019. It's honestly how I feel, guys.
I mean, it's such an insane run. That's a tough run to live up to, man. I mean, that is one of the best runs of the decade. We're going to talk about that later, but I mean, you look at the quality of the matches that Omega was putting on, man. I mean, and it's hard to compare against that. I mean, he's had some great matches before in DDT, like I mentioned with Kota Ibushi. He's had great matches in PWG. I highly recommend going and checking out his Battle of Los Angeles match with ACH. I can't remember if it was 2014 or 2015. There's some fun kind of stuff in there, but you're right. It really is the apex and the highlight of his career, and it's going to be tough to top that. He has had some great matches in AAA, though. I think his matches in AAA were better than his matches in AEW so far, and I highly recommend going out of your way to see his AAA Mega Championship win over Phoenix and his AAA Mega Championship defense against Dragon Lee.
No, I mean, those are elements of the old Kenny Omega, like the match he had with Shima. You got to see elements of the old Omega. But you know what also hurts that Japanese run that I just talked about, that 2-year span? He won the title too late. If he had won it like in the third match, then maybe you would have looked at it even more fondly than you do. But yeah, I feel like the execution was too late there for him winning the heavyweight title in Japan.
I mean, you have to think that he may have been figuring into New Japan's long-term plans. So I think New Japan may have been planning to have him for another few years, but obviously things change, the rise of AEW, and we are where we are now.
Yeah, Jay, I mean, I'm sorry, we're going to get to Male Wrestler of the Year in a few minutes here, but Jay, let's say AEW wasn't a thing and Kenny didn't want to re-sign with Japan, would you have liked to see him in WWE?
I don't think so. I think now you got to remember Kenny Omega wrestled in the WWE system way back in I want to say it was like 2006, 2007. He trained under Bill DeMott, and you can go and find the shoot interview that he made about it, and he talks about his experience training under former WWE and NXT trainer Bill DeMott, and he hated it. He was miserable. He hated the experience. I don't think, I mean, even hypothetically, I don't think he would ever even consider going back to WWE unless they just gave him Brock Lesnar level money. I wouldn't want to see him there, and especially after how he talks about it in that shoot interview, I wouldn't wish that upon him, man. That would be some serious stress on his mental health.
I mean, but here's the thing, like, all those elite guys, they were considering going to WWE before AEW was a thing. Like, Hangman Page was going to get main roster money to be in NXT. Nobody gets that. And Kenny, let's go to AJ. You know, people say, "Oh my God, he shouldn't go to WWE." But look at his career. Can we say AJ has been taken care of in WWE? Yes, we can. I feel like that would have been the same thing for Kenny Omega. There are people that do like more popular podcasts than we do that are upset with the way Kenny's been booked in AEW that say he should have gone to WWE. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed when he signed with AEW. The guy's, 35, 36? You should want to see him in WWE. He can have matches with AJ. He can go with Daniel Bryan. He can go with Finn Balor. He can go with Seth. A match I really want to see is Roman versus Kenny Omega. The quote-unquote best wrestler in the world versus a guy who is probably one of the most hated wrestlers in the world by the smarks and the marks in the IWC and the internet wrestling community. So there were certain things that I would have loved to see Kenny Omega do in WWE. Hopefully, maybe he'll get there one day, but it might be too late. That's my whole spiel on the career of Kenny Omega. Branon, you got anything to say about that?
Not really. That was a long spiel you guys went on back and forth. I mean, I don't think I'd want to see Kenny in WWE. Maybe some people might go see Kenny in AEW. I mean, I know it feels like a long time ago, but just imagine if Dana Bryan didn't resign and he was in AEW right now.
Oh, that'd be amazing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Ric Flair Award for Male Wrestler of the Year. Why do I name it after Ric Flair? The greatest wrestler that's ever done it. Ever laced up a pair of boots. Here we go. Number 1, Adam Cole, baby. Number 2 is Chris Jericho. 3, Kofi Kingston. 4, Cody Rhodes. 5, Johnny Gargano. 6, Kota Ibushi. 7, Will Ospreay. 8, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis. 9, Kazuchika Okada. And 10, the newly heel-turned Seth freaking Rollins. Ladies and gentlemen, our Male Wrestler of the Year, just like CBS Sports, is Adam Cole, baby. He did it. I mean, I said he was Male Wrestler of November, but then you have to really look at it. Prophecy's been fulfilled, all that other stuff. Adam Cole, he rose his stock in 2019. Brandon, you're the NXT guy. What are your thoughts?
I am the NXT guy. I did pick Adam Cole in my NXT year-end awards as my NXT male wrestler of the year, maybe overall competitor of the year, just because he had such a great, not only November, he was champion for the last half of the year, and he did fantastic stuff, but he wasn't my male wrestler of the year overall. That would be because I'm also the New Japan guy on the podcast. I picked Will Ospreay, and I think this might just have to go with some of our listeners not really knowing a whole lot about New Japan. They might know who Will Ospreay is, but I think they haven't seen the day-to-day stuff of what he's been doing. Going back to match pick of the year, I mean, I threw on that Will Ospreay Shingo Takagi match because we didn't have a Will Ospreay match on the list, and we needed to have one. And I felt as though that was maybe the best one. You could pick other ones. You can have, his match against any of the matches he really had in the G1 Climax, but definitely the one he had against Okada was, I thought, fantastic. Just everything he's been doing this year. I mean, he had a match against Show at SF State that probably nobody really saw. It's just kind of a match thrown on there for the best of the Super J Cup, and that match was utterly phenomenal. And just other stuff that he's probably done that I haven't seen that's not in New Japan. Will Ospreay, I think, is by far and away the best wrestler in the world right now.
Yeah, Jay, I'm gonna let you speak in a second. A lot of people are saying that Will Ospreay, they're coming to his defense, and I'm looking at what he's done. Apparently, he's had 5-star matches this year, according to Big Dave. Versus Okada, July 20th, Takagi, June 5th, Ibushi, July 18th, Dragon Lee, June 9th, and then Bandito, May 23rd. So, I mean, look, I'm a fan of Ospreay. I think he does tremendous work. I really do. But Adam Cole, I think it's really the charisma on top of being a great professional wrestler. It's just the charisma aspect of Adam Cole that really moves me. And being a wrestler of the year, like, it's not just what you do in ring, it's about what you do outside of the ring and telling a story with your words and being extra charismatic and mannerisms and certain emotions.
Well, I could also say that Will Ospreay has made leaps and bounds in his charisma, in his character building. He has, as Jay said, he's kind of taken over as the top gaijin in New Japan, and I think he's taken that mantle. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Will Ospreay drop the junior title and he makes a full move into the heavyweight division, and he might face Okada at Wrestle Kingdom next year. Who knows? And I mean, whenever Will Ospreay beats Okada, because that match is going to happen and Okada is going to lose to Ospreay, it's probably going to be the moment of the year, the match of the year, because that is just a moment in a story they've been building for such a long period of time, and when it happens, it's going to be insane.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
Man, I am totally with Brandon on this. I feel like with Will Ospreay, whenever you see him have a singles match on a card, even sometimes with those tag matches, you're like, man, I got to tune in. Will Ospreay has become a must-watch wrestler in every single match he puts on, man. I mean, Will the Thrill, the Sex Pig, he's really stepped it up this year, man. Great matches throughout. I was one of the few at that very small San Francisco State show, that singles match against Show at the Super J Cup. I got to see him live against El Phantasmo, live at Sumo Hall in Japan. They brawled up the stairs next to us. It was insane. I mean, he even had a great match against Amazing Red in the first round of the Super J Cup in Seattle. You got him and Okada in the G1, him and Shingo. 2 great matches with Lance Archer. That New Japan Cup semifinal against Okada, that match was fantastic. And now you look at it, his leading into his match at Wrestle Kingdom against Hiromu Takahashi, the returning Hiromu. Man, I am so stoked. His match with Hiromu is the match I am most looking forward to of both nights of Wrestle Kingdom. That is a must-watch match. Mark it down on your calendar. Bust out your 999 yen. Get yourself a New Japan World subscription January 1st and put that match down as the match to watch for the next month, man.
Okay. All right. I will be tuning into Wrestle Kingdom. I have a little bit more free time on my hands, and I think we're gonna see some good ish. I might watch the whole thing. I don't think I've ever watched an entire Wrestle Kingdom
Live?
Yeah. The only time I've ever really seen Wrestle Kingdom live was when was it? When Cody's first match there. I was like, oh, he's wrestling there, let me see. And then, Jericho went over there, and I piqued my interest in certain things, So we'll see. But guys, 2020, when we do this again, Jay, I'd love to have you on for the End of Year Awards in 2020. Who do you think will be Wrestler of the Year? Branon, start us off.
I think it would be easy for me just to say, I think Will Ospreay will win it again. Ben, that could possibly be the case. I think Will Ospreay is going to be in maybe the heavyweight division next year, and he's going to have a fantastic year. But I know you hate him, Phillip, but I think Matt Riddle could be, the top star in NXT next year, maybe even be in the main roster, and maybe he could replace Adam Cole as the male wrestler of the year.
No, absolutely not. I don't want to see any of that. I just don't. I don't get it. Is he just the cool guy that says bro and gets high? Like, is that it? Is that really
I
it?
mean, Randy Orton gets high. He's a more charismatic Randy Orton.
No. Randy Orton gets high when he jumps to deliver that RKO. Jay, do you know what the most three deadly letters in WWE are? Or in sports entertainment? RKO. If you didn't know, like aside from Kenny Omega, I'm not a big Matt Riddle guy.
Hey man, I love the King of Bros. I feel like if New Japan had gotten a hold of Matt Riddle, he could have had an amazing run in New Japan. The guy is a great talent. He does have kind of that happy-go-lucky stoner sort of mentality, but I really hope they do well by him in NXT and WWE. I'm a huge fan. He seems like a cool dude. A lot of people have said that when they met him on the Indies, he's a super chill guy. Loves hanging out with the fans. Just a real regular, everyday low key dude. Just no huge ego or anything. So I really hope Matt Riddle gets the best possible run. But I gotta say, my potential. I'll give you a couple names for my short list for the Wrestler of the Year in 2020. Jon Moxley. I'm gonna say Will Ospreay, and I'm gonna go out there and I'm trying to think of who else on the women's side. Man, there's some great Joshi out there. There's some great women's wrestlers in AEW. I'm gonna throw Chris Statlander out there, and I'm gonna throw Darby Allin too.
Wow. Okay. AEW love.
I hope next year we have a AEW be the male wrestler of the year, because that means it's AEW's gonna be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Daniel Bryan, no, AJ won the first 2 years we've done this. That's right. I remember that. And you were upset both years, Branon.
Yes, because my boy Kazuchika Okada should have won. I think Kenny Omega should have won last year or whatever, and then Will Ospreay should have won this year. I mean, it's just a catastrophe that these New Japan guys keep getting the shaft.
Well, I mean, it's New Japan. I don't know what else. Did they even win an award on this show?
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you something. I think if we'd put Ring of Honor on here, they would have won an award over New Japan. Yeah, I know.
People go watch New Japan. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff 3 times a year.
Hey, Ring of Honor won the Dumpster Fire of the Year award on the Rudos podcast this year. So yeah, they could definitely win something.
Hey, I don't know, man. They tried to get Kaz XL and Enzo. Maybe their stock would have went up if they had my boy Enzo. Big Enzo, big Enzo guy on this show. I mean, if do I have to do it? I think I will.
And what do you know? We got a couple haters. And let me be frank, I got that hot sauce.
Yeah, big Enzo guy over here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to end the show with the biggest award we have ever done here on the BC. It is the Shawn Michaels Award for Wrestler of the Decade. Why? Shawn Michaels, Wrestler of the 90s. So here we go. Our nominees are, we got 10. Number 1, John Cena. Number 2, The Undertaker. Number 3, Daniel Bryan. 4, Brock Lesnar. 5, Randy Orton. 6, AJ Styles. 7, Hiroshi Tanahashi. 8, Kazuchika Okada. 9, Chris Jericho. And 10, yes, CM Punk. And ladies and gentlemen, the winner is the phenomenal AJ Styles. Had to go with the New Japan theme song. Why? Underrated out of all the themes AJ's had. I mean, it's simple. I mean, look at what he's done this decade. Finishes up with TNA. He leaves there, and then he goes over to Japan, and he just becomes an absolute badass, man. I mean, having matches with Tanahashi and Naito and Okada, and the banger at Wrestle Kingdom 10 with Shinsuke, which the magic was tried to be recreated in WWE, didn't live up to the hype, unfortunately. And then he comes over to WWE, and people thought he was going to get buried because he was the TNA guy. He beats their biggest star on their second biggest show of the year in a banger in a 35-minute classic with John Cena at SummerSlam 2016. Holds their championship for a year, and then he held it once again when he beat Dean Ambrose 9/11 Backlash. I mean, it's just a phenomenal career AJ's had overall. Yes, puns intended there. But I'm not gonna lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. My pick was Big Match John. I'll get into that once Jay tells us who his pick was for Wrestler of the Decade and what he feels about AJ Styles winning Wrestler of the Decade.
You know, I can see the argument for AJ Styles. Like you said, he was having good matches in TNA still. Left TNA, goes to Japan, has this career resurgence, right? I mean, you think that he had so much hype in early 2000s TNA, that famous triple threat with the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe, 2005 TNA, still TNA's best match ever in their entire history. That very famous triple threat that really put AJ on the map. And I can see it. He's got a good resume, a solid resume for Wrestler of the Decade. But my pick is the resume that outshines all of them, Kazuchika Okada, man. That guy went from being a TNA jobber in 2010 and 2011 with a racist gimmick, thank you, Vince Russo, being the sidekick of Samoa Joe. He returns from that excursion in 2012 to New Japan, wins the title off of Tanahashi, kicking off an amazing feud. And initially, the fans in New Japan were not too happy. They were not sure. They were wondering, why is this guy being pushed so much? His reaction wasn't, so warm right away. It took people a little while to kind of warm up to Okada and to really get behind him. And he had to earn that support of the fans. And he did so with great promos, great matches, bangers. I mean, his 2-year run as the IWGP champion is one of the greatest title runs of all time. The greatest title run in Japan since Mitsuharu Misawa in the mid-90s is his run as All Japan Pro Wrestling Triple Crown champion. His feuds with Tanahashi and then later Omega are feuds that will be talked about not just for years to come, but for decades to come. They will go down as in the history books as some of the greatest feuds ever. And any metric you look at him, at his resume, he is the best. You look at star ratings, he's got all the stars, man. He's got 6 stars, 5 stars, whatever you want, man, he's got it. You want to look at money, drawing power? New Japan is doing the best they've ever done. They've sold 40,000 tickets for night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom. That's pretty much a sellout in the Tokyo Dome. And they've already sold 30,000 tickets for night 2. Or they're projected to sell about that. So he's selling, making it rain money. He's making it rain gold with title reigns. He's making it rain stars. He is truly the rainmaker. Nobody else on that list has a resume like his. And there are some damn good resumes on your list for Wrestler of the Decade, but none of them stack up against the Rainmaker. And you know what? It's just a tough comparison, but the man has had a decade among all decades, and he has cemented himself as a legend in the wrestling world. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He will go down as one of the greatest champions of all time. He's got some matches that will go down in history as some of the greatest matches of all time. What he has accomplished this decade is unmatched by anyone on that list. But for me, far and away, the Wrestler of the Decade.
Brandon, thoughts on AJ winning, and then who's your pick?
Well, AJ was my pick for Wrestler of the Decade. You know, being the big sports fan that I am, I've been kind of paying attention to some of these, decade-long debates and everything. It's really hard for Wrestler of the Decade, because what is really the criteria? Do you put an emphasis on being there all 10 years like AJ and John Cena were? Okada was there for a majority of it, but I think for me, the reason I kind of put AJ over Cena and Okada, because those were kind of my other guys that I was flirting with who I was going to pick, is just because I think AJ was just consistently for the past 10 years in the conversation for the best wrestler in the world. Yes, maybe the last 2 years he's kind of fallen off because old age has caught up with him, but early on the TNA run he was fantastic. I mean, who else could you really say was the top champion in the three of the top five biggest promotions in the world. AJ is on a very short list of guys who've kind of bounced around and had success in a plethora of different, big time companies. He's had he's had the matches to prove it in TNA, in New Japan, outside of New Japan when he that 3-year run where he was kind of bouncing all over the place doing some indie stuff, and then in WWE he's had some of the greatest WWE matches in the last few years. Jay talked about Okada drawing money. I think AJ is very influential in the reason why New Japan is the way it is right now. As I said earlier, AJ was one of the reasons why I watched New Japan when they had the Wrestle Kingdom show in conjunction with Global Force, which was a thing back in the day. And, AJ, the leader of the Bullet Club, goes off. They sell all the T-shirts. AJ was the coolest thing going. He goes to WWE. We thought, he's going to be a mid-card guy. He loses to Jericho at WrestleMania. But then as time went on, he proved himself to be great. He's short. He has a southern accent. He has the weird hair. But it doesn't matter. He's a fantastic wrestler. And I think it just proves to how great he is. And that's the reason why I picked him as my wrestler of the decade.
No, I mean, all those are absolutely great points. I mean, but we're looking back at what AJ's done this decade. I mean, he's the only guy that has wrestled at the 5 biggest wrestling shows of the year: Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania, Bola, Ring of Honor's Final Battle, and TNA's Bound for Glory. Nobody else has ever done that. I mean, Cody, he's wrestled at 4 out of the 5, and he appeared at Bound for Glory when he was making his rounds on the indies. So he's either wrestled or appeared at all those, but AJ has been in ring competing at all of those. Nobody else is ever going to do that, you know what I mean? And again, with AJ, he's been the IWGP champ, the NWA champ, the TNA champ, and the WWE champion. Nobody else is doing that ever again, you know what I mean? I understand why he was the wrestler of the decade, but I picked John Cena. Why? I mean, look, he's our generation's Hogan, you know what I mean? He is big box office. He can draw money. Not as much money as Austin drew, because Austin's the best draw in the history of the business. But, I mean, we look at what he's done in this decade. He's done the job for a lot of guys. Look at the rivalry with CM Punk. He did the job for him on numerous occasions. I think they had, 7, 8, 9 matches together, and Cena only won, 2 or 3? You look at Daniel Bryan, SummerSlam 2013. He does the job for Daniel. Daniel wins, and we're not going to talk about what happened after because Branon doesn't like to do that. We fast forward to 2015. He does the job for KO. He does the job for Seth Rollins. Go to 2016. He does the job for AJ Styles. He's laid down for a lot of guys, and he's given back. And this year without him, it really goes to show, wow, this guy is really important to this business. John Cena, wrestler of the decade, no doubt about it. Yeah.
I mean, I can see the argument. John Cena had, especially these past 5 years, he's really had maybe the best matches he's ever had. I mean, the first match he had with The Rock, I absolutely loved that match. I think that could be a contender for match of the decade. And John Cena, I think, he gets a lot of flack for his character and everything else, but I think he has proven that he should be in consideration for, one of, the GOATs and all the other stuff that people like to talk about.
Absolutely, and a lot of these guys are, you could say it. I mean, Jericho, the resurgence of career he's had. He started off this decade as suit and tie Jericho. He moved on to the light jackets. He became, the master of the list again. He has a little bit of the bubbly and the lexicon of Le Champion and all this stuff. Punk was on this list. People ask me why. It's because of the impact he had. He leaves in 2014, but we've still been chanting his name at shows for the past 5 years. And so he went off and did the UFC thing, didn't work out, got his ass kicked. You gotta respect the guy for getting in there and trying, you know what I mean? So, I mean, he can be on here for impact, and a lot of these guys, you could say, well, they've done good things this past decade, but my pick was John, but AJ, I mean, he won, that's the bottom line. Alright, boys, well, do you guys have anything else? Jay?
I mean, I just want to say, you look at Tanahashi on there, too, on that list. Tanahashi had a great decade. He had to do a lot of work carrying New Japan through a dark period at the early part of the decade. It's a tough list. It is a tough choice, man. It is so subjective, and it's difficult, man. It takes a lot of thought to pick that wrestler of the decade.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's won the 3 biggest awards we've given out 3 years in a row. That just goes to show how talented the guy is. And Branon said he's kind of settled off. I mean, he's, 42, it's, he's not doing Fosbury flops in viral taps anymore, but he can still do the greatest hits. You know what I mean?
Man, you look at all
Yeah.
those bumps he took in 2000s TNA. He took some nasty, nasty bumps over the years. It's a miracle he can still work at the level he does.
Branon?
Yeah, I mean, AJ and Shinsuke, they kind of come in at the same time, and I think AJ has definitely surpassed Shinsuke. Maybe not, in totality of what Shinsuke has done in New Japan, but I think AJ and Shinsuke, just what they've done in WWE, AJ has shown that maybe it's motivation. We've kind of talked about that on the podcast, but I think AJ has had I try not to say phenomenal, but is kind of the word that comes to mind, just how great AJ has been in WWE.
Absolutely, man. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here. Oh my god, we've gone almost 2 hours. This may be the longest podcast we've ever done here. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We had a great year to talk about. Now, we are going to quickly recap everything here. So, our breakout star of the year is The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Tag Team of the year, O'Reilly and Fish for the Undisputed Era. Women's Wrestler of the year is Becky Lynch. Promo of the year, Cody Rhodes, I Love My Brother. OMG Moment of the year, Jon Moxley's AEW debut. Worst Moment of the year, Lana Rusev Lashley. Storyline, Heel Turn of the year, Finn Balor becomes the Prince yet again. Storyline of the year, Kofi Kingston's road to WrestleMania. Championship win of the year, Kofi Kingston wins the WWE title at WrestleMania. Commentator of the year is Mauro Ranallo. Show of the year, AEW's Double or Nothing. Feud of the year, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. Field spot of the year, Cody hugs Dustin at Double or Nothing. Match of the year, Cody versus Dustin, Double or Nothing. Male wrestler of the year is Adam Cole, baby. And our wrestler of the decade, the first time we've ever given out this award, it goes to the phenomenal AJ Styles. Well, I guess that's going to do it, boys. Jay, thank you for coming on again. I know we had to do a round 2. We went a little longer. Sorry for the inconvenience, but we love having you on, man.
Hey, man, it has been an honor and a pleasure to join the Bullet Cast and talk wrestling with you guys. We'll have to have you come on the Rudos podcast and have a little talent sharing agreement here.
Absolutely. I'd love that, man. Brandon, it's always nice talking to you, buddy.
Oh, it's been nice talking to you. Can't wait to do it again next decade.
I know. Ladies and gentlemen, next week the Bulletcast is coming back to you. I got some things going on in my life, so there may be a little delay in days. I'm not sure what's really going to be happening. But next week we are coming back to you. New week, new month, new year, new decade. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for supporting the Bulletcast. It means the world to me. Happy holidays to all of you and your families. Have a little bit of the bubbly on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. You can drink and drive, though. You can get in your feelings with it. I'm fine with it. We got big things coming for you in 2020. Interviewing a former 24/7 champion. Can't wait for that. It's going to be a banger. Brandon and I, we're working hard to give you guys the best content that we can. And I know Jay, I've listened to his show. He does really good work. Go check out his stuff, man. Jay, plug your work, man.
Hey, you can get all of our episodes, rudospodcast.co, all your favorite podcast streaming platforms. You can also check out our videos on YouTube. Look up the Rudos Podcast channel on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Rudos Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. You know where you can find us: iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Patreon. 99.9 FM, Kadam in Watsonville every Friday night from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Facebook Bulletcast, Instagram Bulletcast, YouTube The Bulletcast. Email us Bulletcast2 as in the number 2, sweetswet@gmail.com. Thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to all of you.
This has been the Bulletcast. Thank you for listening.